Kiefer on a little spicy little Mardu list here. And now we have Awaken the Honored Dead here from Andrew Elenbogen. The first chapter of this saga is going to take care of the 2-4 from Kiefer.
It's an important one for Elenbogen to remove. That card alongside the mobilized stuff has the potential to just draw a ton of cards. And, you know, Andrew doesn't want to get into a spot with this control deck where he's going to be outdrawn by that much.
Looks like a Windcrag Siege here for Jack Kiefer. Second chapter of this saga is going to mill 3. In comes a Devotee for 2, Kiefer to 17. Lotus Light Dancers, the follow-up here for Elenbogen, which is a nice card. It's a good body, 3/6. It has lifelink. We're going to find 3 cards, black, green, and blue if we want, and put them into the yard.
Ooh, got the Counter Master.
Yeah, he did. He ended up playing this card. I was curious. 100 Battle Veteran.
Don't know if is he doing a little thinning right now, or does he have big dreams? We'll find out in a bit.
There's a look at the veteran there. I honestly have never seen this card in play so long as I've played the set.
I mean, it's got quote-unquote flashback.
Yeah, you can cast it from your graveyard.
So I don't think it's so much about are you making this thing a 6/6 versus just, yeah, it's a free 4/2 if you're doing any of the self-mill stuff.
3 or more different kinds of counters. I mean, if you're going to be able to do it, it's a Sultai deck for sure.
Mm-hmm. They have some of the, you know, grading keywords sort of counter stuff here, and +1/+1 counters. You know, maybe with the Saga there's a way to do it. I don't know. But
okay, so we've got a reach counter in the graveyard there with that Sagu Pummeler, and a flying counter there with the Keru Goldkeeper, plus a +1/+1 counter, so we can do it.
Okay.
Pass back over to Jack. War Effort is the play. No attacks. Sad. Hashtag sad. The saddest war effort.
Well, you know, you got the siege going. You're building up a little bit of go wide stuff. It's not always the fastest burn.
Okay, okay. Slow burn, victory perhaps. Chapter 3, Awaken the Honored Dead. You may discard a card. When you do, return target creature card or land card from your graveyard to your hand. And it's going to be Codis that's coming back. Pretty nice on this board, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, just blocking and swallowing stuff up, preventing Jack from developing too much of a board here.
Looks like the first thing that we are going to do is put some counters here on our Lotus Light Dancers from the Keru Goldkeeper. And yeah, if Jack is trying to do the war effort thing, I mean, how about we just gain 1 billion life? Andrew Elenbogen up to 24.
Well, the ceiling on the token stuff can get pretty high. You know, it would be one thing if Jack was just attacking with 2/2s and 3/3s.
Yeah.
We could pretty much call it here. But there is a ceiling here with the right pump spells and haste threats.
Ooh, oh. Very nice. Very nice. We tried to kill the Lotus Light Dancers, but Snakeskin Veil says, I don't think so.
I believe that's the 4-mana sorcery,
yeah.
Kill and Surveil.
And you make 2 1/1 warriors.
It's the
yeah.
mobile. Yeah.
It's a nice Mardu removal spell. Or best in Mardu, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, with the, you know, Jackson Shaman set up here, it could have been a really nice swing.
Yeah, it would have been great. I was like, if he could remove the Lotus Light Dancers, we might be talking, but Snakeskin Veil made Jack Kiefer have a very bad day. Gets into the red zone for a couple points of damage to knock Andrew down to 22. And here we go. Roiling Dragonstorm hits the table for Elenbogen. We're going to draw 2, discard a land. Yeah, he's looking at that 100 battle veteran now. We're close to having all the conditions on that bad boy met. It's going to be Kotis the Fangkeeper, the play here. Lotus Light Dancers in for 6.
Yeah, I mean, with Andrew training for 6 every turn.
This is sick.
The only thing you really care about is being able to block on the way back. And the 2-1 Indestructible is a much better blocker than the 4-2 with the finality counter. And if you find a third counter, then you bring it back as a 6-6. So it makes a lot more sense to just deploy this first as the better blocker and maybe try to defer the flashback a little bit longer so when it comes out, it's 6-6.
Kiefer falls down to 8 following that attack from Elenbogen. Stormblade detainment, question mark?
I mean, I think we might have seen it by now. And also, it might not even be good enough at this point.
Yeah, he also doesn't have one.
Andrews are up to 28. Stuff's going on in the graveyard. Cards in hand. Smoothing out his hand.
Yeah, it's just nasty. What's interesting, though, is Jack Kiefer does have 3 copies of Riling Dawnbreaker and 2 copies of Osseous Exhale. Exhale's never hidden that thing anymore.
Yeah.
Does he double exhale it? No, not even. Stuck on 4 lands as well. Andrew's going to move to combat, swings in with the Lotus Light Dancers. Are we doing it? Are we double exhaling?
Got to be some follow-up.
A Molten Exhale. Okay. Osseous Exhale followed by Molten Exhale. All right, you got me. I thought it was going to be safe because I figured, well, maybe he'll put another +1/+1 counter on it. They did reveal a dragon, too, the Twin Maw Stormbrood, which would gain Jack some life. And it did gain him some life off that Osseous Exhale goes to 10.
Yesterday there, Andrew took a little while on the turn before deciding to attack. Literally was considering not attacking at all. If you assume that it has to be Osseous Breath as part of the equation here, then Jack just ends up doing nothing with his mana.
Right.
And they have each other's deck list. Well, not deck list, but
Pools.
So
you knew that double spell, it was a potential.
Yeah.
So you could have gotten the counter from the Saigu Pummeler or whatever.
You could have just said go, and then Jack has to untap and leave his 4 mana up because the Osseous Breath is not castable at any time. It has to be inside of combat. But Andrew's got enough going on at this point, and how long do you really want to wait? There's some risk of Jack having a really bursty turn, so I think it's fine for Andrew to attack. Just an interesting consideration.
Sure.
Of, are you actually supposed to just say go there or do something else?
No, it is interesting. Like I didn't even consider not attacking. That's the way my brain works. Turn it sideways. Answer yes. 100 Battle Veteran was the play there for Kiefer. All right, we're going to cast our Roiling Dragonstorm once again for Elenbogen here. Look at some more cards, dump some more into the bin, play a Swamp. Looks like we're going to take this counter from the Saigu Pummeler in the yard and use it this time. Where is it going to go? Onto our dragon. That dragon has reach now. It's very important. And it comes. Keep her down to 5.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Can never be too safe.
I'm trying to think, is there any case where you, like, some card makes a creature lose flying? Here we go. Riling Dawnbreaker comes into play. Very nice in Kiefer's deck, which pumps up a creature. +1/+0.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here, because if you had a flying creature that said can't be blocked by creatures with flying, then you still would not be able to block with your flying and reach creature.
Correct. And we're not getting, like, timestamps doesn't matter, because if you, like, What's the blue spell that removes abilities? It still would remove the reach counter too.
Okay, that was going to be my question does the counter supersede loses all abilities?
I think only after. Fresh Start, that's the card I was thinking of.
Does it let you block something with horsemanship? I'm saying I don't know how reach and horsemanship interact. That's the best thing I could come up with.
Only horsemanship can block horsemanship, right?
I'm pretty sure, but I don't know if reach is allotted to also interact with horsemanship.
We're asking the tough questions here on broadcast.
Yeah, if you got an answer to this, head over to social media. Let me know. I'm sure there's something.
Another Roiling Dragonstorm here, number 2 for Elenbogen. Feeling pretty nice. Plays a forest. Taking a look at that Riling Dawnbreaker. I'm trying real hard not to be annoyed that card's named Riling Dawnbreaker and that Dragonstorm is a Roiling Dragonstorm. Pick a lane, man.
Yeah, seriously. There's a lot of adjectives out there.
Feral Deathgorger getting in once again to knock Kiefer down to 3. Look, I know they mean different things, but they're so close.
Yeah.
Well, Kiefer's got to pull out some magic here to turn this game around. Andrew's still sitting at a cozy 20.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the concern here from Andrew's side is that he knows Jack can gain 5 off the dragon. So there's a question of, is there some risk of him just having enough counters, being able to go wide, getting that extra cushion from the life gain, and is there some sort of, anthem or, combination of pump spells that could possibly squeeze this out? Because, if Jack goes and attacks, something's getting through. There's only so many blockers here on Andrew's side.
We got 2 more blockers at the end of its turn there with Duskiet Earthgorger, which is going to come in as a 4/4, and it made a 3/3 Spirit alongside of it. Oh, interesting. So we're going to give Kotis -1, and he's going to head to the yard.
Got skull clamped.
Got clamped. Get clamped, bro. Ooh, nice. There you go. All right, we're starting things off here. Charring Bite from the Twin Moth Stormbrood is going to take care of the Earth Carver. So we just have that 2/1 and that 3/3 back to block. But we got a big dragon. I guess we also have 1 in play.
Well, the dragon has vigilance too, so this is something that Jack can attack and also block with, because he needs a chump blocker on the way back to survive combat here.
Kiefer here lining up attacks, asking the exact same question you just did. What can I possibly attack with so I don't die on the crackback? We have a trigger from the Riling Dawnbreaker to give something +1/+0. Looks like it's going to be 4 of the tokens, 4 warriors getting in. I assume the Dawnbreaker as well. 5 from War Effort. All right, that's going to be a chunk of damage. Andrew's going to fall down to 11 after that attack. Kiefer up to 6.
Yeah, one of the tokens there has lifelink from the siege there, so Jack picks up 1.
Wow, Andrew, from a incredibly commanding position, and I didn't see a way out, has kind of fallen onto the back foot here.
Well, this was Andrew was stacking very tall on 1 threat, which he lost. And his individual spot removal is not going to be very good here because Jack is going so wide.
Right.
a lot of the way that Andrew was able to kind of manage the damage range is because he was also gaining so much life on the way back that Jack wasn't in a position to productively attack. However, in the meantime, Jack was just making some tokens kind of sitting around here.
Caustic Exhale is going to deal with the veteran and say that's that. Andrew Elenbogen picking up this game 1 here versus Jack Kiefer, but that was close.
Yeah, I mean, Jack's turd there was, if I was Andrew, I would have been a little startled by what's going on there. Starting off the turd with -1/-1 to your 2-1 indestructible. It's like, oh, God, has he been setting up shop here for actually able to win this turn?
That is something terrifying you have to keep in mind from an aggressive deck like Jack's.
Andrew was able to build up enough of a cushion there with life that he was able to survive that very large hit and come across and finish it off.
Taking a peek at Kiefer's deck list here, as we did not get to see him draft like we did with Andrew Elenbogen. Some interesting cards that he has at his disposal. Anafenza, Unyielding Lineage, a very good, nice, aggressive card in his list. Mardu Siegebreaker, actually. So 2 of those were opened in this draft pod. Jack Kiefer's got 1, and he is playing 1. 3 copies of Riling Downbreaker, like I mentioned, 2 Osseous Exiles. He does also have a Zergo, Thunder's Decree. Nice. Wow, and that War Effort, this would be a pretty sweet little aggressive deck.
Yeah, but with some staying power. It's not like Corey Burkhart's kind of very flashy, spell-oriented one. We saw in that game, even though Jack didn't win, that he was kind of able to sit back and build things up when on the turns where he wasn't able to really make any headway inside of combat.
Hey, everybody, looking for a good sale on a Sunday? We've got a flash sale going on right now at StarCityGames.com. 10% off all promotional singles. You're speaking my language. I like fancy-looking cards.
And I do like a Euro land that you see over on the left.
Oh,
there.
me too. Yeah. Euro planes. Are you kidding me? Best planes?
The Dutch one with the windmill and the tulips. Beautiful stuff. Sale ends Monday, though, so you want to get over there. StarCityGames.com while supplies last.
The Sunflower Plains is my personal favorite.
As another beautiful one.
Yeah. Some great art there to pick up this weekend. I want to note, too, that Kiefer is running 2 copies of Desperate Measures, that card we saw him play earlier. Single black mana, target creature gets +1/-1 until end of turn. When it dies under your control this turn, draw 2 cards, which is kind of nice way to refill your hand.
I'm sure a lot of what that card is about in this deck is just got tokens sitting around, so whatever. But every so often you run into a 2-1 indestructible legend, and it's nice to be able to clip that off on the cheap.
All right, here we go. Game number 2. We've already got a Wind Craig Siege in play and an Abzan Devotee. Sidisi, but we've got our own copy. Oh, nice. We're taking care of the Siege with our own Saga here. Chapter 1, destroying it.
Kind of a rough start here for Jack. It's 2-1, lining up with a 1-3. His Siege vindicated.
Goodbye. The honored dead have awoken indeed. All right, we're going to do some card selection here. With one of the modes off this spell, we're going to get a Swamp and pass back. Mill 3. Lost our Lotus Light Dancers. But we do have a CDC in play. Ways to get things back.
The 100 Battle Veteran, so that's something that can come back later too.
Ooh, nice, yes. All right, we've got our 4-3 Puppy Dog here for Andrew Elenbogen. We're going to put a counter on it. And we're going to get our Lotus Light Dancers back with Sidisi. That dog goes down.
Oh, man.
Wow. The greater good, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Lotus Light Dancers into play. Jack Kiefer just has to give a little chuckle as Andrew goes and finds 3 cards, black, green, and blue, to put them into the yard.
And Lifelink is so important in this matchup from Andrew's side because, you know, again, Jack's playing an aggressive deck, but it's got a pretty high ceiling in terms of what it can do on the top end of its range. And so if you're Andrew, you do want to be pressuring Jack's life total a little bit. You can't be comfortable. You can lock him out of the game just by playing large creatures. And so the lifelink creatures in particular are really well suited to pressure while implicitly getting some defense on the way back.
All right, so we're able to put 2 creatures that can give counters and other various gifts into the yard in Sagu Pummeler and that Karo Goldkeeper. Turn passes back over to Jack Kiefer. Looks like it's going to be a Charring Bite to deal with Sidisi. Twin Maw Stormbrood shuffles back into the deck. Man, Twin Maw Stormbrood has just impressed me this weekend.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was among the better first picks in draft, not because it's the most powerful card in the set or whatever, but the combination of power and flexibility. It doesn't really box you into anything, but it does work. If you're doing any sort of dragon synergies, it's great there, and if you're just playing it on rate, it's great there too. But not exactly the card for this kind of fight. Jack doesn't want to play that long of a game over here, and deal 5 damage to target creature without flying kills a lot of stuff, but Andrew's got a lot of 6 toughness and a lot of creatures with flying too, or at least the ways to put counters on them and give them flying that way.
Chapter 3 of the saga pops off. We have the Ice Ridge Serpent, which is going to come on in and bounce the token back to hand. And there we see one of the copies of Desperate Measures from Jack Kiefer. And Desperate Measures, indeed, here when his creature died to those Lotus Light Dancers, he's going to draw 2.
Yeah, it's not like too bad in one sense because he stopped the lifelink from happening and also sacrificed a recursive creature. But he's just getting dominated on the battlefield very, very badly right now. It doesn't have any of his engine cards in terms of token generation where he could try to set up something big in the meantime. If they're just playing creatures of removal on the battlefield,
Andrew's going to win that every time.
He's got a huge edge in that sort of game.
Just the Dawnbreaker in play here for Kiefer. Andrew considering Renew from the Sagu Pummeler.
Well, we also know, because, Jack, the way that Jack's removal is damage based, right?
Right.
And so even though you would think a 6 toughness is pretty safe against that, we saw Jack able to double spell the last game. And so there's a question from Andrew's side of, do you want to try to get your 3/6 to be so big that it can't get double spelled?
Right.
Or do you want to kind of diversify your assets a little bit where you have a second large thing left over? So even if Jack uses 2 removal spells on the lifelinker, whatever you have left over is still very large. It looks like Andrew's going down the second road here of just saying, you want to use 2 removal spells on the 3/6, that's no big deal. In fact, you might have to use it on the 5/5 anyway because you just don't have that much time.
Right. I love that play there from Andrew. Swinging in, knocking Kiefer down to 16 previous turn. Jack just passes back. And looks like we might be doing it all over again here. It appears Kiefer just hasn't drawn the cards in the right order. Just one big dragon is not the way his deck wants to play. In with only the Serpent from Elenbogen. Kiefer down to 11.
Well, the 3/6 would just bounce into the 3/4 and would allow Jack to pair a removal spell to one of the damage-based removal spells to finish it off. So if you're not large enough to get through the 3/4, you could say, yes, Andrew would gain 3 life, but I think Andrew's deciding that letting Jack trade cleanly 1-for-1 with the 3/6 is not worth it, even at +3 life.
Sure, great point. Anafenza Unyielding Lineage flashes in there at the end of Elenbogen's turn. This is 2/2 first striker. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, she endures 2. Abzan Devotee pass back over to Andrew.
A nice little blocking combo here, the combination of the Devotee, which recurs itself, and the Anafenza growing, kind of puts pressure on Andrew to either find some removals to break that up or go into the air. because attacking on the ground now is basically something that makes no progress.
So let's go into the air. How about this? Renew from the Keru Goldkeeper. Give our 3-6 flying. Andrew here deciding which attacks to line up. Kiefer is sitting at 12. Looks like he wants everything to attack, and Kiefer slams this block and offends on the dragon into the 5-5.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of got to be an all or nothing from Andrew here on the ground, because attacking with one thing is actively bad. Jack gets to block with the devotee, gets to trigger the inoffensa, and then just pick the devotee back up.
All right, so let's see what happens here if Kiefer has a spell to follow this up with. He does not, in fact. An offense is going to go down, but another non-token creature died, so he's going to endure 2 with that spirit. All right, Salte Devotee, pass back to Kiefer. Kiefer is at 7. Elenbogen at a healthy 23. Dawnbreaker gets in, free attack. Abzan Devotee back from the dead.
And we could potentially be playing here for a little while if Jack has one of the Osseous Breath, because you have 3 from your flying blocker, and then 5 from that spell is 8. And then we're back in Abzan Devotee. You can't really attack on the ground very effectively territory.
Highspire Bellringer here from Elenbogen, 1/4 flyer. Discounts your second spell. Okay, we're going to try and force the issue here. Piercing Exhale is going to take care of that dragon to try and cut down on the chances we get double spelled. Already set, attack! Here we go, everything in.
Yeah, so you could chump block with the devotee, and if you want to, basically have the spirit trade with the Death Toucher, that's fine. So it makes a little bit of headway on the ground here, and it at least forces Jack to spend mana picking the devotee back up and recasting rather than doing anything else with it.
Jack Kiefer falls to 2, and there is the handshake. That is Andrew Elenbogen taking this match 2 games to 0.